Hi guys, I hope everybody's doing well, getting ready for the holidays. I don't have a lot of time, so I'll jump right into it. My research was titled The Social Gospel, The Influence of Marxism During the Progressive Era. In general, I set out to prove or at least argue that the social gospel was influenced by Marxism. And by Marxism, I hone in on German Marxism, the German historical schools, and English socialism, and how they influenced those that are considered the founders, or at least highly influential in kickstarting the social gospel. The three I focus on are Richard Theodore Ely, Walter Rauschenbusch, and Washington Gladden. With all three of these gentlemen, Richard T. Ely and Washington Gladden would be earlier than Rauschenbusch. Ely would eventually be a very big name in the progressive movement during the progressive era, kind of centralized the progressive movement out of Wisconsin, where he taught. He taught all over the place, and he pushed the social gospel more so outside of the church, as he wasn't necessarily a preacher. He was more of an academic, but because of his name behind it, he was able to bring a lot of attention more in the mainstream to what the social gospel was and why they thought it was important. Um, Washington Gladden was also another early adherent, and so was Rauschenbusch. Rauschenbusch is interesting because he actually is the son of German immigrants. All three of these gentlemen had a touch with German Marxism that they learned in Germany, except for Gladden, who was primarily educated in the U.S. But during his time in Columbia and New York and his touch with the other two, Ely and Rauschenbusch, he would digest these German Marxist ideals that would be infused into the social gospel. And that's primarily my whole argument, that the modernist social gospel that these gentlemen brought to the table and others would spread like a wildfire amongst theologians and academics and even through governmental agencies, and would embed the social gospel, which carries on even to today. Interesting carry, and so that's basically where I'm going with it. I've set out to prove that the social gospel is truly at its roots, at its foundation, Marxist. The tenets of German Marxism, though Marx himself was always arguing with the German Marxists. He called them, bourgeois elitists. The Germans considered themselves the true socialists, and that was what they called themselves. And Ely would be educated there, so would Rauschenbusch, and Gladden would learn this during his time in New York. And all this took place during the late 19th century, kind of coming out of Reconstruction, and then the early 20th century. And it's interesting because the social gospel would kind of take away, would say that the Bible is not inerrant, that even some would even say that the miracles and the creation, that those are just representations, but they're not scientific. All of the social gospelers, to one extent or another, pushed social Darwinism, the science of the day, perfectionism, historical materialism, all of which would be coming out of Germany. The German Marxism, you can kind of even see the National Socialist movement later of the Nazis that would rise out of this form of Marxism. And regardless that Marxists argue amongst themselves as to which one is real Marxism, whether it be Maoism or Stalinism or National Socialism, they're all founded on Marx. And that's my premise in general. And the effects that that has had on American Christianity and the church in general. Some claim that Rauschenbusch influenced even Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. He touches on pacifism and in some of his early teachings in the early 20th century. And there are some claims, though I had a hard time really putting that together, whether or not that's where Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. came up with his ideas on pacifism. as pacifism predates the social gospel, going back to the revolutionary period, the colonial days, etc. So at the end of the day, that's what I have put together and really dove into head first, and hopefully provided a strong case to reveal through their writings, through their teachings, through their sermons, the influence of Marxism on the social gospel, and that Marxism is actually the foundation of the social gospel. And I want to thank everybody for watching. I hope you guys all have a great weekend and get ready for the final week. Thank you.